I'd like to introduce the candidates for Common Council. To my immediate left, we have the candidates for the first ward. We have Sandra P. Bloom, a Democrat, and we have Dr. Robert Rubino, a Republican. On Dr. Rubino's left, we have the candidates for the second ward councilperson, and we have Mr. Patrick Hurley, a Republican, and Mr. Dennis White, a Democrat. To Mr. White's left, we have the candidates for councilperson at large, and we have Mr. Drummond, a Republican, and Mrs. Susan Hairston, a Democrat. And we're going to be beginning with opening statements. The candidates through for their positions, and the opening statements are 2 minutes in length. And first person to speak is Mrs. Hairston.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here this morning, and thank you to our sponsors and the League of Women Voters and the Alternative Press and Speak of Summit. I didn't take lightly the idea of running for the at-large seat on Summit's council. I'm keenly aware that it bears the responsibility of knowing the pulse of the entire town. For me, it's about a passion for what's good and positive for Summit. Service to community is a family tradition, and it's one that gives me joy, and frankly, it's something I'm good at. I'm a product of the Summit schools and of a family that's lived in this town for over a century. I've had the good fortune of seeing Summit at its best, well-governed, forward-thinking, innovative in ways that have been inspiring to me as well as my forefathers. As a member of Summit's Board of Education, I've worked with a wide range of constituencies with competing priorities. I'm very proud to be a part of the board that created this expansion of the Summit High School when our enrollment was bursting at the seams. I was president of the board when we did the hiring of the superintendent when Mike Moulton retired. We need a fresh start in Summit, one that will restore experienced, good stewardship, especially during these difficult economic times. And I'm ready to roll up my sleeves to tackle the budget in a way that will allow us to manage taxes so it can be affordable for all of our residents. We want to protect Summit's key assets, our schools, our vibrant downtown, and our senior citizens. I want to work effectively with my council colleagues to get the business of the city accomplished. My background is I have a bachelor's in business from University of Pittsburgh, a master's from Seton Hall University. I currently work at the Ford Foundation, an international grant-making organization where I'm responsible for compliance for over $500 million of grant-making that we do annually. I have a lot of community service, and I'm very happy to be married to Jerome Hairston and have 4 children. I hope that you will take your right and responsibility of voting and consider me for your at-large candidate.
Thank you. Mr. White.
Thank you. First, I'd just like to thank all of our sponsors today. Really appreciate it, and everyone for coming out today. I think there's really 2 issues before us today in this election. One is how to control expenses, to keep taxes down, and how to improve Common Council as a governing body. On taxes and expenses, I think we need to really practice smart fiscal planning across the spectrum to keep our costs down. And we need to look at shared services with neighboring towns as a way to control costs. On the working of councils, we certainly need to improve the tone and tenor of the deliberations. We need to treat residents with more respect, and we certainly need more transparency and openness in all of our deliberations. So I think these are the issues, and I think I have the background and training to tackle them. For the last 20 plus years, I've worked at MetLife. For 10 of those years, I've been in the investment department, doing all kinds of transactions. So I have the financial experience, the training to crunch the numbers, to do the due diligence that's required to make sound business decisions. Currently, I'm the head of the MetLife Foundation, the philanthropic and community relations arm of the company. And in that capacity, I manage a grant budget of about $45 million a year, and we support all kinds of nonprofit organizations in health, education, and community relations. So I think I have the perfect training and background to be an effective council member. I have a financial experience, but also the work with the nonprofit sector, which I think is important. In my work, I'm really fortunate to have met many city mayors across the country, and I'm always struck by how pragmatic they are. First and foremost, they're problem solvers, and in the best-run cities, they want to solve problems in the most effective and efficient manner possible. And that's the mindset that I want to adopt here. They want to solve problems regardless of party, and I think we need to adopt that culture and mindset in Summit, and that's why I'm running. Thank you.
Dr. Rubino.
My name is Dr. Robert Rubino, and I've been a resident of Summit for the past 16 years. I'm grateful to be raising my family here, and I want to thank the League of Women Voters and Speak Up Summit for sponsoring this debate. I also want to thank my fellow candidates for offering to serve the public. And in particular, I want to thank Pat Hurley for his service to our country. I think the very ground we sit on 235 years ago, patriots who put themselves in harm's way have provided this opportunity for us to have a peaceful political debate here today. So thank you. My experience as a successful business owner and employer has given me expertise with management, budget issues, fiscal responsibility, and government compliance. As a physician and surgeon, I am trained to maintain perspective, apply critical thinking, and prioritize issues. I have a strong ability to work with others under high-stress situations, demonstrate leadership, and being an effective problem solver while upholding the highest of ethical standards. Here are some thoughts on why I feel I can bring value to the council. As the president of Summit Board of Health, I have gained valuable government experience. As a board member of the Red Cross and Farm Park Surgery Center, I'm well versed on how to deal with the challenges of both the profit and not-for-profit sector. As a coach in Summit Junior Baseball, I have a keen understanding of inclusion, teamwork, and fair play, and let's not forget fun. I run an organization with 35 employees. I understand both sides of the employment equation. I understand what it means to meet a payroll every 2 weeks. In these challenging times, I've been able to expand my practice by implementing new technology, optimizing productivity, both my personnel and my equipment, and shedding outdated modalities. On council, I hope to facilitate healthy growth of the city. And I am a trained researcher, and I have brought research opportunity through Tomorrow's MD, my mentoring program, which we will be receiving an award for our original research this week. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hurley.
Yeah, first I want to start off by thanking the League of Women Voters and Speak Up Summit for hosting this event this morning, and thanks to all of you for coming out on this surprisingly snowy morning. I also want to thank my opponent Dennis for running a good campaign. We no doubt have our differences, but he's a good man, and I think Summit would be well served by either of us. For those of you who have not met me, I wanted to take this opportunity to introduce myself. I'm a graduate of the United States Naval Academy in Annapolis, where I received a degree in political science, specializing in intelligence and national security policy. I moved to Summit 16 years ago after serving 8 years as a Navy pilot, serving in the Persian Gulf, where I flew multiple missions in support of Operation Desert Storm during the liberation of Kuwait. Since moving to Summit in 1995, I have served as Summit's representative to both the Union County Air Traffic Noise Advisory Board, chairman of both the Environmental Commission and the Housing Authority, while also coaching numerous youth sports teams here in town. I am also the local admissions officer now for the Naval Academy, preparing candidates for that rigorous and competitive process. In the private sector, I've held several key positions, gaining experience and expertise in risk management, financial controls, accountability, and transparency. Now I work in a role that allows me to combine all of my professional experience, managing security and crisis response programs, protecting people and assets around the world. Most importantly, I've been married to my wife Cindy, a Summit native now for 23 years. And we've raised our 4 children here in town. All are in or have graduated from the Summit Public School system. Our oldest daughter is a 2007 graduate of the high school. She was captain of the softball team here, and she recently graduated from American University. Our second daughter just graduated this year from the high school, and she was captain of the cheerleading squad, and she is at Loyola University in Maryland, just started this year. Our third daughter just started high school. She's a freshman here, and she's also a member of the varsity cheerleading team. And our son just started at middle school, and he plays football and lacrosse.
Thank you. Mr. Poole.
Good morning, everyone. Like my running mates, I believe the central issue for council is how to rein in property taxes, which is essential while also meeting the community's high expectations for services and protecting our key assets, our outstanding school system and vibrant downtown. And because we rely primarily on property taxes to fund these services, meeting those high expectations just gets harder. Good governance within council is the second major issue for us. There's been a lack of civility in how council functions, resulting in a lack of progress on local issues. I believe my background, skills, and temperament can help change this culture and move us forward on the issues of taxes, strong schools, a thriving downtown, adequate parking, and more focus on seniors in town. I'm trained as an attorney and bring that training to every task. I've held numerous leadership positions in Summit, attesting to the respect and trust I've earned in this community. For the last 12 years, I've served on 2 key city boards. I was on the Board of Ed and president in my last year. I was on the Board of Ed for 6 years, where I was heavily involved in the creation of the primary centers, a very successful innovation. Currently, I'm serving my 6th year on the zoning board. I have a track record and a reputation as an effective board member. Being an effective council member requires the same skills: listening with an open mind to different viewpoints, objectivity, working collegially. My husband and I moved to Summit to raise our family 33 years ago. We've been empty nesters for the last 10 years. We are committed to staying here. I hope I will get the opportunity to lead my community through tough economic times in a thoughtful, balanced way, so that other young couples can come here and have the same future. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Drummond.
Thank you, Summit League of Women Voters. Thank you, Speak Up Summit. Thank you, Alternative Press. Thank you, folks, for coming here. I'm going to be brief. Before I came here, my son had one concern, and one concern only, is there's going to be a snow day on Monday. All these candidates here are qualified. Some of us were born here. Some of us graduated from the school. Some of us have our children in the school. But I have one special expertise that none of these other board members have the opportunity to do, and that is I work downtown. I'm fortunate to have a small business there because I'm there every day. I know most of the issues. I know where people park and should park and don't park. I know about the safety. Fortunately, we have a new police chief that has a better attitude towards downtown safety, and I think that's going to bring the residents back down to our downtown, which is deeply needed. I own a building there, and we have it's the new Olive store in town. The first question that Gilmore and myself asked, what are your hours? And they said nights and weekends. We said, you're in, whatever it takes. We want a store that's open longer hours so when people get off the train, they can come downtown and support our community. Finally, I think we need to work a little bit on permitting. Some of the stores that come to our downtown don't open as the expectation time frame that they have up front. And I think working with City Hall and being part of their representation would help our downtown tremendously. Thank you very much, everyone.
Okay. Our first question. Where do you stand on the parking garage issue? A fee structure, allocation of spaces to employees and shoppers, and redevelopment of existing lots? And the first question, first responder, Mrs. Jordan.
1 minute. 1 minute. So I think we do have a parking problem, and I think what we need to do, I think it's unfortunate that the development of a plan to solve that problem got stymied over the summer. I think we need to go back to our foundations. I think we need to think carefully about a good process for working our way through all of these different issues, namely the lots on Forest and the possibility of a garage. I think we need to make sure that process includes all stakeholders and that the community is really heard in working our way through the process.
Mr. Drummond.
Summit does have a downtown parking problem. There are 2 separate issues. One is having available space for shoppers to come into our town to enjoy without getting a ticket, and to give them enough time so they can enjoy the experience with a movie and lunch. In my opinion, 2 hours does not give them that opportunity. Secondly, we have a volume question. Once the Summit Medical Group is fully completed, there'll be a lot more cars in our downtown. And there's a gentleman that's willing to build a parking garage behind the post office at no cost to the city. There will be a lot of trade-offs, but it's something that at least the council should look into. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mrs. Kirsten?
I think as a commuter, I feel that we've solved that parking problem, but absolutely there is a downtown parking problem. And I think we've experienced a very difficult process in addressing it. I think we need to do a better job of communicating with all of the residents and understanding that there are different problems and making sure we're addressing each of those. So I think we need to go back to the drawing board, at least to make sure what we're doing has the support of all of our downtown, of our residents, and make sure that we do a good job of doing our homework on the process.
Thank you. Mr. Hurley?
I think that I don't, first of all, I think we need to reset the debate on parking because it's obvious that a lot of the residents in town don't feel that their voices have been heard in this process. I know as a resident and a taxpayer, what I don't want parking, I'm not exactly in favor of paid parking unless there's some sort of offset on that. I've seen that in Summit. It's very challenging and inconvenient for residents. And I'm also concerned about a parking garage that would bring additional commuter traffic into the area every morning. Because frankly, we all know how challenging it can be in the morning and in the evening when there's hundreds of commuters coming in and out. And I think the solution, I think there is a solution. I do have the ability to travel quite a bit with my job. And I see different parking technologies all over the country and frankly all over the world. And I don't think we've explored all of those just yet. So I'm all for an open debate on it. I want it to happen, I want it to be fixed, and I want every resident to make sure that their voice has been heard.
Dr. Rubino?
Well, I agree with a lot of what I'm hearing here from my fellow candidates. This is a decades-old problem, and I'm not surprised to hear the question. I think our current system, it goes against human nature. People are going to park where it's most convenient for them, and the system really selects for folks to make the best use of those 2 hours and the additional hours that we often will find people moving from spot to spot to prolong their stay free of charge downtown. There's a lot of opportunities on the table. I read the rather dry 100-page thesaurus report on parking, but it's informative, if not a little bit boring reading. And some of the solutions I think that they posit in that report are useful. I think creating maintaining some free parking on the forest lots is important, and then to consider a graduated fee schedule to incentivize parkers who employees maybe to take advantage of cheaper lots further away.
Thank you. Mr. White?
Yeah, I think I do agree with a lot that's been said. I think we need to start over though, because the process has been really bungled a little bit, and we need to start that over. We need to look at the reports and studies that we already have in hand and pull the right resources in the community, because there is a lot of expertise. I would hope that the solution did not include a new parking garage, a large parking garage, but I'm willing to look at the facts. I also think that we need to promote some of the other parking lots that are further from downtown and encourage people to walk. Some of those lots are not any further than when you go to the mall and walk into the downtown. And also, simple solutions too. I ride my bike everywhere, and I never have a parking problem down at the train station. So I think we can encourage, more healthy transportation alternatives too.
Question number 2. Where do you stand on the issue of an appointed or versus an elected school board? And Mr. Sherman, you get that first.
As the mayor discussed earlier, we have an appointed school board, and I think our mayor has done a wonderful job in having a diverse group of people being appointed to that board. I would no way stop the discussion of having an elected board, but with an election being in April, turnout being low, I think we get more qualified people by having an appointed board. There's also the issue if the city council can veto or get involved with the budget of the school board of education, and I think that should be more of our focus rather than just the board of school estimate, but have all the council people work together to understand the budget, what the numbers are well in advance, and work together to try to control some of the cost of the school system. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mrs. Kirsten?
Well, this is an easy one for me. I think the appointed board has worked very well for Summit. It's pulled people in from all different areas in town. The schools are represented, seniors are represented, And the Board of Education does a fantastic job of making sure the residents know what's in the budget. They work hard to make sure the council knows what's in the budget. And it has served well in terms of making sure seniors have their value in their houses kept up, because the school system is well run. So it's very easy for me that the appointed board works well. Thank you.
Dr. Rubino.
I think looking to the past as to the history and the success of our schools is probably a pretty good indicator. So I think our current system's performance has been excellent. Why? I think we always should be open to the concerns of the citizens and letting them voice their opinion about the current system versus an elected system. I currently favor the appointed system that we have. I think we have a great talent pool, and we're able to have qualified people who represent the diverse portion of the community. So as it stands now, I would prefer to keep the current system we have in place because of the success.
Mr. White.
Yeah, I agree with Susan. The appointed board has served us very well. The school system is very strong. The quality of people who sit on the board are just outstanding. You heard everybody endorse that. So for Summit, the appointed board has worked very, very well. And I think that's something to remember when we bring this issue up and have the debate. So I'm 100% behind the appointed school board.
Mr. Hurley.
I think the appointed school board has served us very well over the years. As I mentioned before, I'm an admissions officer for the Naval Academy, which is a very competitive school, and I do see how the school is viewed, our school is viewed versus other schools in the area, in the state, and in the country. So I think the appointed school board has served us well, but I also think it's important that we do have this discussion because it is $63 million of our budget. My reasoning for that is I want to make sure and restore the credibility or maintain the credibility of the current system that we have in place. And there's a lot of residents out there that ask that question because it is so much money, and we do live in an era of increased transparency and accountability. And we live that work, we live it, our residents deal with it every day, and a lot of our residents don't have the time to pay a lot of attention to this. So I think it is a very important discussion that we have to make sure we maintain the credibility of the current system that we have.
Thank you. And Mrs. Bloom.
Well, I would agree with my colleagues. I think the appointed school board has served Summit well. I think the fact that there are many people in town who would not run for the position if it was an elected position. And I also think that the Board of Ed is, there is a common bond in terms of being focused on a common mission, which is not true of many elected school boards.
Question number 3. Would you support a reevaluation of property in Summit, since it's been quite a few years since the last reval? And Mrs. Hairston.
Well, I know that there's two ways that could happen. It could be by the decision of the council to have a reassessment, or it could be by demand from the state. And so whatever, if it happened to come from the state, I would absolutely support it. But I do know that it is a very challenging endeavor for a town to go through. My understanding is that 30% of the residents, homeowners, would have their property taxes go up, 30% would have their taxes go down, and 30% might have them stay the same. But I do understand that there is some inequity, feeling of inequity going on here in town.
Mr. Hurley.
Yes, I mean, that's an issue that I think that has formed a lot of my current political opinions with respect to taxes. Growing up in Massachusetts, I saw a reassessment, reevaluation across the board in several communities, and frankly, it destroyed those communities because it wasn't very well thought out, and it wasn't discussed. And I can remember, personally, I remember my parents getting all excited about the property taxes potentially going down or being contained to 2%, which was based on a Proposition 2.5, which was modeled after California's Proposition 13. And what the municipalities did is they did a reassessment, which in turn caused those property taxes to double. And that devastated a lot of families and hurt the real estate market across the board. So I think if we do that, we need to be very, very careful. I do understand there's some inequities in town here that some residents are concerned with, but that is, when you start doing that, you have to be very careful about how you can do it, because you can really destroy communities.
Dr. Rubino.
Yeah, I've pondered this concept. I think right now, in these economic times, it's probably not a good idea to do that. There's a cost from doing my homework. I understand the cost can be anywhere from $900,000 to $1.2 million just for us to get the reassessment done. And I think with our budgetary constraints right now, it probably would not be prudent. I think on an individual basis, homeowners can still have an individual review, but at the current time, in the current financial or economic climate, I think we should probably hold off on doing that.
Mr. White.
Yeah, when I think that when there are large inequities between one property owner to the other, that does kind of speak to there is a need for reevaluation. Although I do think it's a very difficult time to do it right now. And I also think that unless all the towns in the county do it, it wouldn't serve Summit very well to step up and do it at this point. So I think there needs to be some movement among our fellow townships and cities, and to do it together. Otherwise, Summit would bear the larger burden in the county, and I don't think we can do that at this point.
Mrs. Williams.
I think it's a difficult issue. I think there are concerns of fairness and equity. We haven't done a reassessment in 16 years. On the other hand, I'm not sure that current economic conditions make that a compelling idea, but I think maybe it's worth having a conversation, going through all of the pros and cons on both sides.
Okay, question number 4. There have been outspoken critics of the Board of Education's decision to use materials prepared by Planned Parenthood. Can you assure the public you will not use your position on Common Council to influence curriculum decisions rightfully made by the Board of Education? And Mr. Hurley, you get the answer first.
It's, you know, I've made it known as a resident that I'm not a big fan of Planned Parenthood. I think it's a divisive organization, and those are my personal opinions. So therefore, I don't believe it necessarily belongs in our schools, any more than I believe that the National Rifle Association should be providing materials that teach us constitutional law. I don't believe in influencing our children on either one of those things politically. So I have been an outspoken critic of it. I'm not going to make it a huge issue sitting on council, constantly bring it up and press the school board on it. I think our curriculum across the board, the sex ed curriculum, is very good. I support the state's curriculum. So it's not going to be a huge issue for me, but it's not an organization that I'm a big fan of.
Dr. Rubino.
This issue, I think, when it came up, I was minding my own business when I was contacted by several family members, being a sex educator myself as a physician, as to this organization. You know, the bottom line was, do we want to bring in an organization which may be somewhat controversial into the school system when there's plenty of remedies to get the education done without them? And I think the materials, as long as they're not sourced, I've reviewed some of the materials, are perfectly fine. So I applaud the school board for maintaining their mission statement of remaining apolitical. The material's fine. Why source it from any political organization? So I was quite happy that the Board of Education remained apolitical and removed any source. Just like in my office, I don't have pens from drug companies because I think it may make my patients think I support a particular drug over another. So I just don't have any sourced material as it relates to pharmaceutical companies in my office. I expect the same of my school board.
Mr. White.
I do think that the Board of Education handled this properly. They went through the right process, they developed the curriculum, they selected the right materials. And Planned Parenthood was the right choice. I mean, they have materials that are effective. I think they were reviewed by various experts, and it is the right material for this community, for many communities. And, you know, parents, if they choose not to have their child participate, can opt out, but very, very few do. So I think it shows very broad support in this community for the materials that the school uses. And I think bringing your personal views in, I think, the last debate that did happen, and some personal views were brought in, and I think that's very dangerous. I think that's why, you do have this appointed school board that selects the material, and I don't think it's for council to be interjecting its personal views on what's right on the curriculum into this debate.
Thank you. Mrs. Bloom.
So as I understood, the question is what my approach would be as a member of city council, and I think you have to be very respectful and be cognizant of the roles of the council versus the role of the board. And if I'm elected to council, I will do just that. I believe that we have a very competent and professional board of ed. I think they handled this process very well. I think they are the community representatives, and I would support them in that approach.
Thank you. Mr. Drummond.
Last week, I went to Brayton School, where my son goes to, and I asked the nurse, Nurse Vale, can I please read this Planned Parenthood information so I can make an informed decision? And she looked at me kind of strangely and said, we haven't had that in this school for the past 2 years. 2 years ago, we got rid of it, and we've had family members and committees come to form their own type of sex education at Brayton School. I can't speak for the other schools, but I think Brayton has taken the right lead in this choice. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Hairston.
I absolutely agree with my colleagues that there is a clear separation between council being involved in the curriculum decisions, and that is best left to the Board of Education and the very qualified staff that we have. I think that parents have the opportunity and the responsibility to weigh in. The school system holds meetings and they can opt out, and as a council member, I would not try to influence the decision or put my personal views in the school system.
Question number 5. Tighter economic times mean increased competition between needs and interests, from downtown revitalization to police and fire departments, to senior citizens, and to the schools and recreation. How would you prioritize these competing needs? And Dr. Rubino, you go first.
But I think the most important thing is to have a presentation from both or all three or all four sides of whatever the individual issue or need is. I think the principal role of any government entity is to protect the citizens, and then all things are subordinate from that. So with the existing budget that we have, I think we have to first look at how to redeploy our assets when we find that we may have a weakness. The same that I do within my own practice. I look at technologies that may facilitate us to cross-train or retrain employees and to shed that things or ideas that are obsolete. So I think you have to take it on a case-by-case basis. At the Board of Health, we've done some of that, where we've subbed out our health officer to Westfield. It's worked very well, saving the taxpayers lots of money. I continue to implement that. It would be an effective strategy.
Thank you. Mrs. Bloom.
So I would prioritize them in this order. I would say public safety is our #1 priority. I think we have to make a major investment in our schools. I think that's the basis of the vitality of the community. And I think we can also address issues having to do with seniors in the downtown, but I don't think those are major budget issues for the city.
Thank you. Mr. White.
Yeah, this is the function of the council, to look at the competing issues in town and to make the deliberations and hear the views to make the right financial decisions. Of course, public safety is the #1 responsibility of government, and I would put that at the top. But then you would look across the board and look at the things that we can do for our seniors to make their community more vibrant, look at the schools, look at the downtown, and it's a deliberation and a negotiation and a process that you go through, and that's what council does. And I think it's hard to prioritize them all, but it's a play between all the different competing needs, with public safety being #1.
Thank you. Mr. Drummond.
The needs of Summit are 3 things: police, fire, and education. I would think anything outside of that envelope we can look at and try to save some money. One quick way I think we should start looking is the Board of Education in the city of Summit. It's all our tax dollars. I'd like for those two organizations to start to share some of their programs, as simple as car maintenance and lawn care. And from there, if there's trust and understanding between those two groups, that can grow to engineering, it can grow to human resources, it could just take over and save all of us our money. Thank you very much.
Mrs. Hairston.
Well, I can agree with many of the things that I've heard said here. In these difficult economic times, we are going to definitely, as a community, have to make some choices. But jeopardizing public safety is not one of them, so that will always be at the top. But when I was on the Board of Education, we worked hard to look at places where we could do shared services. And we did that with the maintenance of field. We did that with transportation. And we're going to have to do that more as a council to do that. I do know that we need to have an engaged citizenry on this, and so we'll need to communicate extensively and really make sure that people know that there are going to be choices that are going to have to be made, and that we are going to have to look for revenue opportunities as well.
Thank you. Mr. Hurley.
I agree with a lot of what I've heard here. I do think public safety is the number one priority. And I think the schools are second to that. I think the approach to this is just the same approach that most of us have to take or have taken across corporate America in the last year or two, where our budgets are constantly being cut and we're constantly having to go back and reevaluate the way we do things. As I mentioned, I'm responsible for security and crisis response programs for assets around the world. My budget has been cut continuously this year, but I still have to provide those services, and I still have to make sure those people I'm responsible for are safe. So it goes back to a classic re-engineering. It's looking at what's priority, what are our core services, what are those things that are duplicative across the Board of Education, across City Hall, across police, fire. You expand that out to shared services, and you keep it going. And I think the key way to do that is to engage the actual employees who are the experts in doing that. I'm not looking at paring back City Hall or doing anything of that nature, but I really want to engage employees. I want to engage police, fire.
Okay. Question number 6. What are your positions on charter schools and vouchers? Mr. White.
That's easy. I'm against vouchers, and in this town, I'm against charter schools.
Mr. Drummond.
Summit Public Education is the backbone of our community. The school system in Summit started in 1745 on River Road. In 1798, we had 8 students. Right now, we have 4,113. And I think the school system we have now works well, and I would be opposed to having a charter school in our area.
I think that charters and vouchers work well and are designed for a school system where there is dysfunction, where you need choices, where you need that competition. And I don't think that's true in Summit, where we have an outstanding school system. I think it would just have a damaging effect on the school's budget and the ability to deliver quality education for all our students.
Mrs. Hairston.
I'm actually very concerned about this because I think the state is trying to ram this down communities' throats, and I think it's a real problem. I agree with my colleagues here that it doesn't have a place in Summit, and it does have a place in other communities, and so I am opposed to it in Summit.
Mr. Hurley.
I agree with pretty much everything that everyone said here about that. I don't believe charter schools are appropriate for Summit or vouchers at this point. I think they do serve a purpose in more dysfunctional school systems, but definitely not here. And I think if it does come to statewide legislation, I believe residents do have a right, if nothing else, to vote on that. And hopefully that won't be an issue for us. But I agree with everything that's been said here.
Dr. Rubino.
While this is an issue that hasn't been brought up at length on the campaign trail, it's something that I've considered, and I, at this time, think it's not appropriate because I don't think we have a need. If debate comes up, I'll always listen to somebody at public comments at on council meetings, but at this point, I don't think it's something that we need. Getting back to the prior, since I timed out my prior answer, on council, I'm running for council. I'm not running for school board, so I think and any council member should really give the autonomy the Board of Education deserves and would not ever try to influence any curriculum decisions of the school board. Thank you.
Question number 7. Do you agree with the city solicitor that sunshine laws have been violated by recent email communications between council members? With communications becoming increasingly electronic, what would you do to comply with the Open Public Meetings Act? Mrs. Blue, you go first.
Well, since I've sat on 2 city boards, I've had to deal with this issue, and my way of handling it is to make sure I'm fully informed, to listen carefully to the attorney for that board, to make sure I know what the rules are, and then to err on the side of caution. I think you have to be very careful. I think transparency is really important, and I think there's a solid reason for having that law.
Mr. Drummond.
I think the spirit of the law was violated. I'm not a big fan of emails. I like personal contact. I like looking in eyes, understanding issues, concerns of people. I think our council should go back to a time when people stand up and talk, they actually think about what they're saying and why they're saying it and how it's important to the future of our community, and not predetermine a vote via email in prior hours. Thank you.
Mr. Hurley.
Yeah, I want to echo what Greg said. I do think the spirit of the law was violated. This is something that I've been dealing with when I was back in, I think, 1999. The city asked me to reform the Environmental Commission just because it wasn't up and wasn't operating at the time, and just to put all the rules and regulations, policies, and procedures in place. One of the key things that I learned about very quickly was the Sunshine Law. And then on the Housing Authority, when I was chairman of that, it was the same thing. So we were very cautious about our communications across the board. But, again, saying the spirit of the law was violated, I don't know if it was intentional, because with modern day communications, it's very, very easy to cross that line. Personally, as a councilman, I'd be very respectful of the Sunshine Law, and I'd be very, very careful of what goes in an email and who it goes to, who's the distribution list and all that, just like we have to do professionally every day as well.
Mrs. Hairston.
Well, I was trained under the tutelage of Harold Kessler, who wouldn't allow you to even talk about board issues at a cocktail party. So I take very seriously the Sunshine Law, and believe that it is really incumbent upon public officials who have the trust of the community to make that a #1 priority, to conduct themselves ethically and carefully. And so I do know that that will be something of major importance to me. We do it at our jobs.
Dr. Rubino.
Just because email is always a difficult technology that we have to grow to understand, as far as our ability to reply all to people is something that can get a lot of folks in trouble. I think I just won't employ email, period, with my colleagues on council to avoid that issue. If there's anything we need to say, we should just say it in the public forum. Like most technology, I think our ability to deal with it is always a little bit behind the technology itself. So I think going forward, I'm just going to make my comments to my colleagues right in the open public, won't have to worry about it. As to whether or not the law was violated, I'm not an attorney. I think it was probably not appropriate to send that email. I don't have all the facts, though, as far as who replied, what they said, or did they reply. But I think the best way is just not to communicate through email with my colleagues on council.
Mr. White.
I sit on the Housing Authority, I sit on other boards, and I've gone through lots and lots of ethics and compliance training, working for a large financial services firm. You just can't believe how much ethics and training, compliance training you go through. And the council also went through training. I think we saw just recently some of the training that they went through in 2009 that did lay out the things that were appropriate and could be done. And it was clear, I think, that what was done in the last, in June of this year, was a violation of the Sunshine Law, and I think the council for the council did weigh in that way. So I think we need to go back to the drawing board to be retrained and to remind everybody, that this is a very important issue. The sunshine laws are there for a purpose, so people can hear and see what's going on, and so the public can participate in decisions and debates, and I think that's why they're there. We need to remember that.
Question number 8. Energy costs, both in dollars and the effect on our environment, are rising. What would you do to promote the city's use of alternative energy sources? And Mr. Drummond, you're first.
Energy, I'm sure, is a large part of our city and school budget. I wouldn't want to have any energy policies based solely upon today's tax code and what credits we may get and not get in the future. I think there's some discussion of putting some solar panels on some of the schools, and that may be a productive way to decrease some of our energy. And I think the other thing that we could do is just turning lights off. Every time I go home, I have 9 lights on, and I go around the house turning it off, and they call me a caveman. But that's like that can help us begin to save some money. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mrs. Houston.
I know that we have an environmental commission here in Summit who's done a phenomenal job at helping us go green. Summit has a history with our transfer station. We were well ahead of the state in terms of being environmentally sensitive and also saving money. So I would support a commission looking into ways of reducing the energy costs in town.
Mr. Hurley.
One of the things professionally that I'm responsible for is security and solar plant in the middle of the California desert. It really means it's literally in the middle of nowhere. And it's a very interesting technology. This is relatively old technology, but I think you look at solar as an option here at the local level. Potentially, we can do that. I think there's limitations to the technology now, but it is fascinating. So I would look at the different ways we can exploit some of the technologies that are out there, if nothing else, so the city can serve as an example and maybe help economize some of these technologies as time goes on. But I also think it's important that we continue to educate these. Even, we all remember, a lot of us remember, the energy crisis of the 70s and all those things turning off the lights and as a kid we saw that. I think that's important today. I had the same problem that Greg has. In fact, I woke up this morning and went downstairs and the lights were on and the TV was on. And my daughter was actually asleep on the couch because she fell asleep watching a movie, so which was not good. So the whole house was lit up like a Christmas tree.
Dr. Rubino.
I think we have to focus not only on alternative energy sources, technologies, but also alternative behaviors. I think command response, thermostats, or energy meters where say the high school in summertime, we can get a discount from JCP&L. In fact, I called them up about this, where in a high demand time, we can elect to turn down some non-essential functions here, and we can save on our energy costs that way. Shared purchasing, I think collaborating with Chatham and Milburn, we can maybe present to the energy companies for a bulk rate on our energy consumption per kilowatt hour. And the solar subsidies might be a good idea. We don't get the benefit directly. The vendor gets it, and they pass it on to us with lower energy rates for a contracted period of time for, say, 10 to 20 years. I think it's something to look at, but you always have to worry about anything that's subsidy-driven. If those subsidies go away, then we might be on the hook for the money, but it seems to me that they're not going away anytime soon. Thank you.
Mr. White.
Professionally, I have made investments in solar and wind energy across the country, increasingly across the globe. So we need to be really conscious of these markets and what the tricks are in them. I think the solar market pretty much just fell apart the last couple of years, and someone could get in a real bind if that happens. So we need to be very cautious in this area when we move forward. I know the school board and the city are looking at some feasibility work to put panels on some of the buildings, and the housing authority has debated it also. But again, it's a market that we don't control, and we need to be very careful. We need to have the right expertise as we look at these and be cautious.
Mrs. Gould.
Well, I would start by just applauding our mayor who put sustainability and environmental issues as a priority for Summit and has led to the outstanding work of our environmental commission and a lot of enormous volunteer effort in town in terms of the school system as well as the volunteer community of spreading the word and coming up with a lot of creative ideas about how we implement those concerns in our community. I think the fact that we're even considering some shared services between the city and school system is a productive direction, although I would agree that it has to be looked at very carefully because of the economic situation.
Question number 9. What is your position on constructing a helipad at Overlook Hospital? Mrs. Harrison.
I think that our zoning board has spoken. The community and the board has voted down the helipad, and it's a closed issue.
Thank you. Mr. Drummond.
Overlook Hospital tried to expand their services by having a stroke center where time-sensitive delivery of medicine is extremely important. And I give them a lot of credit for trying to go in that direction. To get a patient from the outskirts of New Jersey to the hospital is critical. But I think that the safety of the citizens of Summit are more important, and that if they want to have a heliport, they can go to an existing helicopter site around the area and ambulance the person to them, but don't put the people of Summit in danger with a heliport on top of their building. Thank you.
Mr. Hurley.
I understand the need of why they want the helipad, but I've come out against it. I don't believe it's the right thing to do. Based on my aviation background, I am also a commercially rated pilot, both airplanes and helicopters, and I believe that it's dangerous. And I expressed those sentiments last year at a council meeting because one of the reasons is that the airspace in Newark sits right on top of us. And I think there's about a 200 to 300 foot clearance between their approach patterns into their proposed approach patterns into the hospital versus the airplanes that are on approach at Newark Airport. And I think that's dangerously close for me, and I think we're setting ourselves up for a big accident. And another thing, the residents simply don't want it, and I think that's a critical piece to it. So I'm against it.
Mr. White.
I think this is a good example where we have a qualified zoning board, just as we have a qualified board of education that goes through the required steps to look at all the issues. They spent an enormous amount of time reviewing this transaction, and they came to the decision that it wasn't right. And I think that's why we have these kind of experts on the committees that manage the town's affairs. And so I would support their decision that they came to not to have a heliport.
Thank you. Mrs. Bloom.
Well, everybody probably knows that I was the one member of the zoning board in favor of the helipad. I realized that that was an unpopular stance to take. I think it is a measure of how I would operate as a council member, that I did my homework, I attended 17 hearings, I read and reread the 3,000 pages of testimony several times, and I came to my own independent conclusion that the saving lives outweighed the modest increase in noise. I think that it was a very fair process. I think we did a good job of handling a very complicated issue, and I support the decision that we came to.
Dr. Rubino.
Well, I think you have to look at the relevance of the question, just as a question about the school board is not very germane to the council, since we won't be voting on school board issues. I think this is a zoning board issue, and I know it's been somewhat of a contentious issue for my opponent, but I think it's not appropriate to consider this for a council matter, because it will never come before council. So I don't think we should belabor the point.
Thank you. And this is the last question, and it reads, you are all political novices. What steps will you take to gain the confidence of the council and voters if you are elected? And what distinguishes you from your opponent? And Mr. Hurley, you get to answer that first.
Well, I agree, we are political novices. I think all of us have good experience here in town. And I'd be very open to discussing, working with the residents, basically hearing from everybody. I think that's critical to make sure, because we're so busy as a community, to make sure that council people and all elected officials are open and available and accessible to the residents of Summit. And I think that the key thing that distinguishes me from Dennis is a lot of the experience and the expertise that I have in some of the issues that are very important to us right now, including security, including crisis response, as was indicated by the hurricane that did a lot of damage here in town, and hopefully the snow here today won't do as much, so.
Thank you. Mr. White?
Yeah, and the experience on council and lacking that and not having it, I have sat on many boards. I'm on the Housing Authority, I'm on external boards, I'm on a group called Living Cities, but I have that experience to work on a board and to work on issues, to find common ground with colleagues, and I am trained in that. I do know the town. My kids have gone through the school system. There are 2 of them in college now, and I've coached for many years, so I do have a feel for the town. I have been here 18 years, so I think all those things contribute to being an effective council member. I think what differentiates Pat and I a little bit, I think I have a very even temperament. I'm open and willing to listen to people, to hear both sides of an issue, and I think that's my strength, and I would bring that to council.
Thank you. Dr. Rubino?
Well, I guess I don't agree with the premise that I'm a novice. In the sense, I think all of us are somewhat expert in politics because we vote. So I disagree with the assertion, but I understand where it's coming from. I think my service on the Board of Ed for the last 5 years and president for the last 3 years has really kind of been great practice for the big show, if you will. We deal with our own budget, we deal with ordinances, and getting feedback from the community. I think one of the things that distinguishes me is that I run a large organization right now. I am very much in tune with both sides of the equation, managing budgets, serving on other boards. I'm able to work well with others and be able to deliver appropriate reports and decisions and weighing all the evidence. And I think having an open mind is important, and running your own business is an experience, I think, unique, that really equips you with all the skill sets you need to run the business of the city of Summit. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Bloom?
Again, I don't think I'm a novice. I think I've sat on city boards for the last 12 years, and that has prepared me to be a good council member. I think particularly being on the Board of Ed, a really important part of being a board member is being a community representative and making sure you're doing the right kind of outreach to reach communities. Board of Ed takes its show on the road, so to speak, in terms of its meetings. And so if it goes to the different schools in town, and you get more people coming to those meetings because of it. So just even doing a simple thing like that, I think with council would be a good idea. And there are lots of other things that Board of Ed does that I think would be applicable to council in terms of outreach. I also think, in contrast to my opponent, that there's a difference between running your own business and being involved in a board that involves working with other people and having to listen and disagree and come to a resolution of issues. And I think that is a more relevant experience for being on council.
Mr. Drummond?
I've had some experience being on an elected board, working for the city of Summit in the Special Improvement District. There's about 30 blocks that vote their own members onto an organization called Summit Downtown Inc. For 2 years I was a chairman, and I'm not saying it's at all like the city. It's a much smaller scale, but we have budgets, we have issues such as tree wells and parking and all. And one of the things I tried to bring that organization, first and foremost, was procedure. If you don't have the right procedure, whatever your outcome is going to be failed. So I'd like to bring my experience that I've had with Summit Downtown Inc. to the larger board in the city of Summit. Thank you.
And Mrs. Hairston?
Yeah, I'm glad that we clarified that, that we're not political novices. If you're married, you're good at politics. But I do want to say that I do think earning the confidence and trust is a real important part of being on council, of having your colleagues as well as the city. I think my background and my experience on boards, I have a track record of having the confidence of those that I serve and those that I work with. And I look forward to bringing that if elected. And I do think that my experience, my professional experience, working in the community and in a large corporation has also distinguishes me from my opponent.
And Now we will have closing statements. They will be up to 2 minutes in length. And we're going in reverse order from the opening statements. And Mr. Drummond will be going first.
I'm running because I care about the future of Summit. I care about our downtown, I care about our schools, but most importantly, I care about our kids. And I want a place that they wish to return 20 or 30 years from now to be as great as it is for us, and for us that we grew up here, and we're bringing our kids back. And I want to make sure that this council understands that we need to look to the future, and we have a young group of people that hopefully someday will come back and have the experience that we are all enjoying right now. And if you guys honor me with electing me, I will not let you down. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Bloom.
I hope that in listening to me this morning, you've gotten a good sense of who I am and what kind of council person I would be. Listening to how council has operated over the last few years, I think we need some bridge builders on council, and I think I'm a good bridge builder who can help instill a culture of civility and nonpartisan discussion that will keep us moving forward and focused on the big issues facing Summit. I'm a firm believer that the way to address complex issues is to make sure you have the right process to resolve issues and make sure all viewpoints are adequately heard. By temperament, I am not bound by preconceived positions. My approach is to do the homework and research, listen to all sides, and evaluate the pros and cons of what is best for the whole community. From my experience being involved in this town, I believe the city functions best when council respects the work of its volunteer boards and doesn't try to micromanage or interfere with its decisions. What kind of council person will I be? I will always do my homework, my due diligence. I will listen to all viewpoints, respect a fair process, will fully articulate my reasons for a decision, and always make decisions on what is right for the whole community. There may be times when you disagree with my conclusion on an issue, but I hope that you will always know why I took that stance and view it as a principled one. I view being on council as being a good steward for one's community. This is a wonderful, vibrant town with much to offer. It's my obligation, and I hope it will be my privilege to protect its future. Thank you, and please vote.
Thank you. Mr. Hurley.
During the last few months, I've had the opportunity to meet hundreds of enthusiastic residents who, like me, are concerned about maintaining the high quality of life, character, and small-town charm of this magnificent community. But to do this, we face many challenges. I think successfully navigating these challenges as a community will require experience and expertise. Expertise in the areas that will keep our families safe and our government efficient and accountable. Success will also require perspective. Perspective as a taxpayer and a parent, and most importantly, success will require disciplined, tested, and humble leadership. We must maintain the high quality of life, outstanding schools, and vibrant downtown we have come to expect, while keeping Summit a safe and affordable place to raise our families and even retire. But as we emerge from this economic crisis that has adversely affected many Summit families and businesses, we cannot go back to the old ways of doing business where 5 to 10% or even 2% annual tax increases are acceptable, and almost 30% of our property taxes are siphoned by the county, taxing us at a rate almost double the average, with little representation and little transparency. And we're doing all this when we fight amongst ourselves over our own smaller municipal budget. As a community, I think we have to do better, and I think we can do better, because I don't want this to be taken away from us. This year, it's extremely important we elect the right people, tested leaders who will put Summit's families and businesses first. Leaders with the experience, expertise, and perspective to ensure that Summit remains one of the top communities in the nation. If you honor me with your support, I promise you I will work tirelessly to use my years of leadership experience, expertise, and perspective as a Summit resident, taxpayer, and parent to ensure we remain and are one of the safest and most family-friendly communities in the nation. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Rubino.
There's an old saying in medicine that if you listen to the patient long enough, they're going to tell you what's wrong with them. And I think on a daily basis, I do that. And listening to the citizens of Summit, they'll tell me what's wrong with Summit. So I think having an open ear at all times, and then be able to take the subjective portions of information they give me and the objective indicators, and then assess what's wrong and have meaningful interventions in how I'll approach my time on council. I think I'm grateful for living in this town. I started here painting houses as a teenager, and I aspired to live here one day. And I sublimate that gratitude every day by volunteering in any way I can for this community. So that will be boundless energy I'll apply to my time on council. I'll always have an open ear, and I will take all the expertise that I've learned in the private and the public sector and furnish the council with that. Thank you.
Mr. White.
Thank you. I'd first like to thank everyone running from both sides of the aisle. I think it's important that we have this debate and that everyone has a choice on who to choose. I think that's really healthy. As I stated in my opening, I think the critical issues before the town are taxes and improving the civility of the common council. And I think I have the financial expertise and the background and training to improve on both of those. And as I've campaigned, many people often ask, I'm sure everyone gets this, why are you running? You know, why are you running? And I think the best answer is when you run for office, you have a vision or a goal of what you're trying to work towards if you get elected. And for me, you know, I'm working towards a summit that has an effective and efficient government and uses its resources wisely. It's a town where people from all walks of life feel comfortable, have resources, and where the school provides opportunities for all. It's a community that practices environmental sustainability as a way to save resources and save money. And it's a community where the government is open and transparent and listens to the views of all residents from all walks of life. Now, Summit's certainly many of these things, and it's a great, great place to live, and I feel very fortunate to be here and to have raised my children here. But I think we can do better, and really that's why I'm running. Thank you.
And Mrs. Harrison.
I get to have the last word. So the first thing I want to do is thank the League of Women Voters and Speak Up Summit for hosting this. I want to thank the alternative press for covering it, and I want to thank you all for coming out and be an informed and engaged citizenry. Summit did not become a special place by accident. Our predecessors prepared wisely and diligently for our future, and they did so with an engaged citizenry. I have a track record of collaborative service, prudent decision-making, and governing experience. My professional background with budgets and compliance, as well as my energy and my strong interpersonal skills, I believe will equip me for effective service on the council. I promise to learn the ropes and to work diligently on behalf of all of our Summit residents, and to keep on top of and even ahead of federal, state, and county mandates. We have to pursue smart shared services. We need to protect our schools, our downtown, our young families, and especially our seniors. And I promise to always conduct myself in an ethical and respectful way. I ask the community to please come out and vote in this election for my running mates and myself, and to give Summit a fresh start and a strong future. Thank you very much.
Please let's give them a women. Run out the door because it is snowing out there. I would just like to say a few words in closing. First of all, I would like to thank all of our candidates. They do us a great service by taking the time and spending their energy to run for office, because without them we would not have the good government that we have. I would also thank all of you for coming out. I would like to repeat a thank you to the Hat Tavern and the Grand Summit Hotel. A very special thank you to our videographer, Joe Steiner, who filled in for us at the last minute. Before you run, please check the tables outside. There is literature from the candidates. There is also literature from the League of Women Voters and Speak Up Summit. There's a yellow pad. We'd love to have you sign up to both the League and Speak Up Summit. And if you'd like to make a contribution, my pocket is right here. Please visit the Speak Up Summit website for more information and for voting information, general voting information on the issues, the ballot question, that's also out there. Some of the issues that came up today about the Open Public Meetings Act, and general voting information, visit www.lwvnj.org, and that's general, nonpartisan election and voting information. And you can read an analysis of this program today on TAP. So check their website too. Lots of opportunities, stay informed, and please remember to vote on December 8th. Thank you all again.